Coming up on today's episode of Parasport Nation, June is Men's Mental Health Month. We have two-time Paralympic gold medalist Greg Stewart stopping by to talk all about it. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm your host, Alex Smyth, as always joined by co-host Nathan Clement. Nathan, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Alex. Vancouver has hit its first heat wave of the summer, so it's nice and hot. I got my bike back, so now I'm able to ride outdoors, which is really, really thrilling. But I've been looking and trying to find a way to hide from the heat because it's been so hot already. But you know where's cool and not hot? The pool. So let's start off with the PSN update.
Now, the PSN update.
The biggest splash of the Bell Canadian Swimming Trials happened out of the pool as Orly Rivard has deselected herself from World Championship selection. As a 13-time Paralympic medalist is prioritizing her law school in the fall. In the water and making waves, Reed Maxwell, Nicholas Bennett, Fernando Liu, Ali Deli and Alec Elliott all had strong performances on the opening weekend of the trials. The Bell Trials continue till June 12th with Canada's best looking to secure their place at World Championships in Singapore in September. Across the Pacific, the Beijing 2025 Boccia Cup sees Canada's best in international action. With 5 Canadians donning the leaf, it is an exciting week of Boccia. Check back next week to see how Canada fared. And that's the PSN update.
Nathan, obviously the big news is Orly Rivard deselecting herself. It's great to prioritize, going to school, especially when you're at this stage of a quadrennial of a competition, to take some time away to focus on other interests. But what do you make of Orly's decision?
I respect it. I think it's an amazing decision for her. I've known her for over 12 years plus now. And just for her to really prioritize and finish that schooling shows that care. And even as she said in a statement to Swimming Canada when she released that she was going to be deselecting herself, she still wants to go for LA in 2028, but she wants to prioritize and really take care of all aspects of her life, as she realizes, as many athletes realize, it's a long process, the 4 years, and you have to make sure that you give yourself that time to take care of the stuff that matters most to you. And prioritizing and putting her schooling at the forefront is so key and so integral to the next 4 years for her. So it's completely admirable, and it really shows just the growth and the leader that she is. And that's one thing throughout the Paralympic sport world, is that we're so lucky, especially in Canada. And even with our guest today, Greg Stewart, who is a guy, and I was very fortunate to do the editing for a story that AMI did on him when he announced his retirement from Tokyo in 2021, when he stepped away from shot put. But in the 3 years since, now he's back as a shot putter, won gold in Paris, and he's someone who's come on today to talk about men's mental health, as June is Men's Mental Health Month. So here's our interview with Greg Stewart.
Greg, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're chatting about a few different things on today's episode. Obviously, June is Men's Mental Health Month. This is a mental health awareness is something that you have been an advocate for a while. First, let's start there, and why you're such a big advocate for mental health awareness.
I think if you're not you, who are you? It's our mentality. It's us that gets us to where we want to go. It determines the outcomes of our lives. And if we're not consciously aware of how we view ourselves, how we view others, and the impact that we're making on ourselves and others, well, we're going to continue to create who knows outcomes. And so I think there's just real importance to sharing the importance of receiving help, getting help, being yourself, recognizing your level of enough or enoughness. So there's so much to it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's incredible that we've have a month towards men's health. But me personally, it's everyone's health every day, every part of the year, not one specific month to raise awareness. It's just to have awareness of it every day of your life. Because Thing is, you know, when July 1st happens, now what? And I think it's just important that we recognize that come July 1st, August 1st, September 1st, you're still important. You still matter. And it's supporting you and everyone around you and your community to ensure that we can get better and feel better.
Mental health is a conversation, whether it's men's, women's, or any side of that, that's really grown in the last couple years and really the last decade. What have you seen around mental health that's really taken those steps forward and making conversations comfortable for people, or just helping address a lot of the things that men, but as you also said, a lot of people deal with on the day-to-day?
I think we're starting to create a safe space for people to acknowledge who they are and what they're going through. I think people are starting to recognize that they are not the only ones that are experiencing these mental health dilemmas and whatnot. And by creating these safe spaces, people are now giving themselves an opportunity to open up and share. And by doing so, more and more people are feeling, oh, wow, I'm not the only one feeling this way. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, I want to learn more. Oh, I want to develop. Oh, I want to understand it. But on top of it, they're creating a sense of belonging within, and people are now starting to feel the sense of, oh, I'm not the only person that is experiencing this or feeling this way. And so I think so many NSOs, so many organizations, the media and stuff like that, I think we're just really starting to create an open space, an open network where it's safe to share.
Now, obviously, the awareness side of things, the talking about, how people are feeling mentally is important, but there's also, things that need to be done beyond that, just so you stay mentally fit as well as being physically fit as an athlete. But how can you stay mentally fit in a good space when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, I think one of the first ones is to let go of the ego, let go of the pride. Let go of this sense of that I have to do it on my own. One of the biggest things I've learned through at least my mental health journey is that you are not going to get through this alone, period. And that's a great thing. It's important to recognize that. There are so many incredible people out there that want to help support you through the challenges, the joy, everything. And especially for men, I think men need to learn to recognize that the tough thing is talking about it. The tough thing is not talking about it. That's the easy thing, right? It's the easiest thing to do is not talk about it. The hard thing is to talk about it, because now you have to actually share who you are. You have to share. But on top of that, you're now recognizing I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. And I'm not going to get through this alone. There are hundreds and thousands and millions of people out there that are willing to support you, that are willing to share their experiences so that you can create a sense of connection. And I think the more that people recognize that you are not going to get through this alone, the greater our mental health will be. And on top of it, talking with somebody, whether, for right now, if it's a friend or a counselor or a mental health practitioner, whatever the case is, just recognizing there's so much help there, and that it only takes a little bit of work to start creating a better sense of connection within.
We've really seen this in the Paralympic side, is just that raising of the physical abilities of Paralympic sport, where a lot of Paralympic sports are at that professional level now. But there's that physical side that we're really taking care of, but there's also that mental side too, which is so important. Just balancing, nurturing that, and finding how you can take care of yourself that way. How do you personally stay mentally fit as a professional para athlete?
Well, I would say, I think it's important to recognize that what gets you to the gym. How do you get to the gym? Well, you have to tell yourself to go, right? And so in order to maintain that, especially at a high performing Paralympic level and stuff like that, it's recognizing, hey, this is going to be a really challenging workout, or hey, today sucked, or I've been struggling the last couple of weeks, or things have been great. Whatever the acknowledgement is, recognizing that. And then recognizing, okay, when things are challenging, how do I get the help? How do I get the support? How do I allow myself to push through this barrier or this obstacle that I'm experiencing or faced with right now so that I can experience love and great things afterwards? And I find that on a high performance Paralympic side, it's, constantly having communication with your loved ones, my coaches, my family, our mental health practitioners, all those people like that, just constantly having a conversation. Because oftentimes it's just that simple conversation that unfolds the truth or shows the reality of what's going on that you can then use to put towards other things. For example, I'm going for my couples, my wife and I see a couples counselor. We're going this afternoon. I have my personal one on Thursday. It's just something that you just schedule, you make happen, you make it a regular occurrence. You create consistency.
No, that's awesome. And I think also too, I'd be remiss if we don't talk about like the other side of the conversation that really doesn't get talked about is all three of us have a shared experience of living with a disability. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a high performance athlete. Unlike you and Nathan are, you guys have your own set of pressures, but all three of us have a different, unique experience of living with disabilities and that impact us in different ways. And I think that doesn't get talked about enough, and how, you get those good days, you get those bad days, and it's how do you navigate through that and have those types of conversations as well, whether it's kind of privately one-on-one or in a more public forum, that you have to be that open, you have to be that vulnerable, as you say, just to really kind of talk about it, to kind of give someone else maybe a bit of a push or the opportunity to then share their experience as well. It can be really kind of vital because it doesn't get talked about, and trying to change that narrative, trying to get those conversations are really important.
Absolutely. And just to add quickly to that, which is also not talked about, one thing I'm grateful for in terms of having my disability is that you can see it. Like, you can see that I'm disabled right off the bat. Nathan, like we don't have to fight around that piece. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm grateful that I have it, because able-bodied people are constantly trying to create this sense of belonging, constantly trying to, fit into things when you can't see the battle that they're going through. And it's almost like, and I'm trying to flip it here. The fact that it's like, my superpower is my disability, because it shows right away my struggles, but also it shows people the great things that I can overcome. And I almost feel bad in a way for able-bodied people, because I can't see you getting and fighting through those things because you look just like everyone else. But if we're able to recognize and support each other for who they are, we all look different, we all act different, therefore we're all different in our own way. Let's support that. Let's, teach people, encourage people to share that difference, so that we can all create the sense of belonging, because we're all different in our own way. So.
Yeah, with disability, and I know from at least my personal experiences, and Greg, you may be able to speak to this too. I had my stroke at the age of 2, so it wasn't acquired at birth, but I've had it from a very young age in my life, and especially as a kid, I stood out. And there's no way around that, but having that ability to stand out, and I was very fortunate, and there's so many people that I'm so thankful for, because I had community at a young age really come together for me, help me find my skills, find that belonging, but also let me be a kid too, by not hiding me away from different group settings, not hiding me away from playing on the jungle gym set or being in groups of kids. And it really allowed you to be comfortable with who you are and step out of sometimes your comfort zones, because that's the one thing that we can be afraid of at times, is standing out and being seen as different, being seen as strange. But when you have a very visible disability like mine, there's no running, there's no hiding from that. So it's going to the forefront. It's learning to realize that you have this beautiful gift, you have this superpower, and it is just the greatest thing. And just the challenges, but also the people that you get to meet along the way is just remarkable, because there's so many like-minded people who've been maybe not through the same journey, but have gone through similar moments in their life where they've had to really rise above, find who they are. And that's one of the greatest gifts about this little world that we have called parasports, or just being a person with a disability. It's really, really amazing, just the possibilities that could come from learning to get outside of that comfort zone and have those conversations and have those interactions.
100%, man. You said it perfectly. Parasport does an excellent job of giving people an opportunity to feel motivated. Honestly, like, how often have people looked at you and been, oh man, it's so cool what you're able to do. Oh man, I couldn't imagine doing that. Right? Yeah, it's like, this is the only way I know. But again, this goes back to like this sense of belonging, this like, we can't hide from our disabilities, yet able-bodied can hide in a way from what they're experiencing. But when they watch us and they see what we do and they're like, oh wow, that's amazing how you overcome, I personally feel that that's also them recognizing themselves overcoming things. But we're just doing it by leading by example. And again, that goes back to the mental health side of it. When we create this safe space, have media that is talking about it, people are going to be like, oh wow, like, hey, I totally feel that same way. I didn't know I was the only one that felt that way. This is really cool. There's a space here for this conversation, leading by example. So it's all very similar. For
yourself, you've been very active, making a lot of posts and awareness on social media in creating that safe space online. What has the reaction been like from people online when they come across your posts or your profiles and see what you're doing?
I think a lot of it has been curiosity, just being like, oh, wow, I didn't realize you could do that. Or, man, how does it feel to be really tall? Because that's been definitely the consistency, is like, man, I never knew that that's what you struggled with. Like, the thing is I'm really, really tall. I'm 7'2", and I have one arm, but my disability realistically is my height, far more than my arm, because I don't know any better. I was born this way with one arm. But I had to grow into this height, and that affects me far more than my arm does. But the social media has been great, just in terms of like literally just sharing. Like, hey, like, this is how I experience not fitting in a bathtub. You know, this is how I tie my shoes. Right? Things that were like, oh man, I didn't realize that. Like, it's interesting. I tie my shoes different than everybody else, but guess what? I still tie my shoes. The way we do it is different, but the outcome's the same. All right, it's just teaching people that just because we look different, act different, we can still create the same result.
Going on to that social media side and just really who you are, and just, I've been lucky enough to follow you on Instagram for a while, but also the Mindful Athlete on TikTok. I noticed in your comment sections, it's often people from schools that you've spoken at thanking you for coming and saying, hey, I met you here, hey, I met you there. And just that sense of community that you have created, whether it's through Athletes Can, where we first met, or just all the interactions that you've had at different sporting events, different competitions, just shows the person that you are, that always wants to give your time, that always wants to give back. And really with that, why is it so important to have that community aspect a part of your life?
That's a great question. I think there's real importance to giving back, but I think it's also just important to recognize that people matter. Like, everyone, like, I mean this, like, I love it. I love you all. You know, I don't know what your background is. I don't know what you've done in your life. I don't know any of that stuff. But I can still show love towards you, and I can still show that you have value and you matter and there's worth. But I can also share with you that, hey, when you apply things in your life, like create more trust and consistency in your life, good things happen. And they do, and it happens through and through all the time. But it's doing the hard things consistently that brings those things. And with, you know, giving back to the community, it's sharing with kids that, like, hey, like, life is not easy, but man, is it fun. man, does it create a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of, triumph, but also a lot of challenges. And this is coming from the sport background. I just feel like there's less kids being challenged in the sense of encouraging failure. Right? There's so much importance around failing and making mistakes and stuff like that. And I love sharing that. And to win 2 gold medals, man, I failed a lot. Nathan, I'm sure you understand this very, very well. And it's encouraging people to fail, because then by failing, we have an opportunity to respond and change and make differences so that we can have a more loving and enjoyable response. And so I think it's just being authentic and sharing that with kids so that, if they're responding on TikTok, hey, you came to my school. I'm not trying to make an impact on you. I'm just trying to help you see how incredible you are. And if this is the way that they're able to respond, then awesome. But honestly, everyone matters. Our mental health matters. You matter. We matter. And it's supporting and loving people to continue to feel and express that.
That's really beautiful, Greg. And Nathan, I want to throw it over to you. What do you think of that idea of just like encouraging a bit of that failure as a fellow athlete? Because I mean, I would love your perspective on this as well. Greg laid it out beautifully. I think it's really well said, but I want to get your perspective while we're in this conversation.
I really believe, and very much that's the same as Greg, it's through life, we're going to face our highs, but we're also going to face our lows too. And to fail and to what we say lose it's a part of the journey. There's no path that is perfect. But maybe the perfect path is the imperfect one, where we go through these hurdles, we go through these trials and tribulations, because all you can do is really grow and really find who you truly are. And through times it can take you down different adventures, different paths. And even throwing this to Greg here, I remember September 4th, 2024. I know that's the day you and I both remember, where Greg won gold, and I was very lucky to win a silver. But before we got to our separate venues, we sat down in the food hall together at 5 a.m. or sometime really early in the morning. And we didn't talk about expectations of performance. We didn't talk about how we were going to do in that situation. We just talked about how we felt in the moment. And I feel like no matter what happened during that day or during that moment, it was just having that time together where we could have both not had the competitions that we dreamed of, but we were just present in that moment. We were able to say and be open about maybe some of our insecurities or how we were feeling in that moment before we stepped onto that stage.
Nathan, you're very good at explaining it. I know leading up the 2 days before, you want to talk mental health, the 2 days leading up to my comp, I was like down the rabbit hole. I was not doing well. But again, I got support, everything like that. And on top of it, I was able to reflect back and look, okay, I consistently put in the work. I had very little days off, days in terms of missing practice because of something. I'm consistently consistent. I got nothing to worry about. I go out and compete and do the best I can. Great. That's all that matters. Gold or bronze or 7th, that doesn't matter, because I know I can trust that I'd put in the work and the rest took care of itself. So yeah, sitting there that morning of win or lose, it doesn't matter. We're here. We're ready. Let's go. We can't change anything.
Yeah, you put that work in for so long that it's when the moment's finally there, just you go out and do it and not think. I think we'd be remiss, Greg, as we kind of start to come to the end of the interview. I want to ask you, because you were recently just in Paris, still competing at the Paris Grand Prix. How did that competition go? Because that would have been probably one of the first times since you were in Paris, since winning that gold medal once again. So how was the competition?
It was good. The baguettes were a killer. Paris does an awesome job making great baguettes. So that was awesome. The competition was good. Through 16:23, a world lead right now. So good spot. I'm in a good spot for the year. But again, just going back, my Patrick and I have been putting in a lot of time. We've been consistently training, and making adjustments and this and that. And yeah, I think we're in a great spot. Paris was just great to be like, oh wow, I was just here, 8 months ago. But so much has changed, right? And and unfortunately, in a way, I see that as like a bad thing, because it's all of a sudden you win and then it's okay, what's next? And I wish society as a whole could spend more time just being in it and reflecting on it and stuff like that. But other than that, though, yeah, Paris was cool. But I was in Portugal for 2 weeks before that, and I think honestly that was awesome too. So yeah, I'll do Portugal all day long.
Hey, you were in Portugal, and out of all the hardball questions we've asked, we got one more hardball for you. How was the pastel de natas when you were there?
Dude, I probably had like 20 of them. They are so good. So like that flaky crust and everything, the pastel de nata is like a go-to. And when I got to Paris, we found like a local sandwich shop. Turned out to be a French Portuguese sandwich shop with like a ton of pastel de nata. So I probably had another like 5 or 6 while I was there. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm heading to Portugal later this year, so I'm gonna be filling my my stomach with natas as well. So I'm glad. I'll be picking your brain as I get closer where to go for the best natas, Greg. But thank you so much for taking the time. This has been such a great conversation. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Nathan.
And that was our interview with Paralympian Greg Stewart, all about Men's Mental Health Month and mental health awareness. Nathan, so much great content in there. It's just so fascinating hearing him share his perspective, being so open about, regularly going to therapy, having those conversations, trying to connect with people, just sharing the love. That's what you gotta love to hear and see from someone in his position who understands the value of that.
Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal. Just his vulnerability, his openness, and just how he shares everything, breaks it down. And as we talked about that day in Paris, it was just us being there in that moment. We've done the work, and it's just appreciating it. And also, on a completely different side note, with the interview too, he mentioned the pastel de natas, and you said you're going to Portugal soon. So now you know that it's going to be worth the hype.
Yeah, I'll have a report when I'm back, but we'll have many more episodes of PSN to come before then. But unfortunately, we're out of time for today's episode. Be sure to check back next time. We'll see you then.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.